We live in this super connected world, right? And we rely on these massive industrial systems for everything. Our power grids, our factories, you name it. But as all these systems come online, this huge question pops up. How do we actually protect them? How do we build a fortress around our most critical stuff?
You know, for the longest time, the physical world of operational technology, we're talking the actual machinery, the valves, the sensors, was totally separate from the digital world of information technology, data servers and corporate networks. Well, those days are over. They're merging, and this whole convergence is creating a brand new battlefield for cybersecurity.
In the past, these OT networks were what we called air-gapped. Just picture a medieval castle with a giant moat around it. Nothing got in or out unless someone physically carried it across. Super secure, right? But also totally isolated. Today, we need that connection for efficiency, for data analytics, so we've built a bridge across that moat. But here's the catch. That bridge we absolutely need, it's also a superhighway for a flood of new threats to come rushing in from the IT world and the internet, right up to our front door.
Okay, so how do we lock this new, connected landscape down? Well, in this explainer, we're going to lay out the whole blueprint for building a digital fortress. We'll kick things off with this OT/IT collision, then get into protecting the boundary with digital gatekeepers, buffer zones, and intermediaries. And it all builds up to a complete defense in depth strategy.
You know, this whole collision of two totally different worlds, it completely flips the script on security. All of a sudden, that OT network that was once so isolated is now exposed to all these new attack vectors it was just never, ever designed to handle.
So what's the master plan? We can't just tear down that bridge. We need it, but we can control it with military precision. The whole goal here is to build a really powerful border that lets the good stuff pass through while slamming the gate shut on any potential threats.
And this has a name, of course. The experts call it boundary protection. And really, it's all about putting guards and checkpoints right on that border between our safe OT zone and the wild west of the IT network. It's about being the absolute master of that bridge we just built.
Now, the good news is the IT world has given us a whole toolkit for this job. We've got things like firewalls, proxies, intrusion detection systems, and a lot more. For our Fortress Blueprint today, we're going to zero in on three of the most critical pieces: firewalls, demilitarized zones, and proxies.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our very first and probably the most common line of defense is the firewall. This thing is the main gatekeeper, standing guard between our protected OT network and the, let's say, less trusted IT network. So the firewall plants itself right at that single point of contact, and it inspects every single piece of data trying to get through. It has a super strict set of security rules, and based on those rules, it decides what gets in and what gets blocked. Think of it like the digital bouncer for your entire network.
But, not all bouncers are the same. You've got your stateless firewall, which is kind of like a bouncer with a really basic guest list. It just checks your ID, your source and destination address. It's fast, but it's not very smart. A stateful firewall, though, now that's more like a hotel concierge. It actually remembers the context of your conversation, and that memory is absolutely crucial because it knows what conversations are supposed to be happening and can spot an imposter in a second.
And this is where it gets really smart. Let's say a device inside our network makes a request to the outside world. The stateful firewall makes a note of it. It intelligently opens the exact door needed for the reply. And the second that conversation is over, bam, it slams that door shut. If anyone else tries to knock on that door later, they're not getting in. It's a dynamic, intelligent defense.
A strong gate is great, but sometimes you need more than just a gate. For really robust security, you need a whole fortified courtyard, a buffer zone. In the networking world, we call this a demilitarized zone, or a DMZ. So, what is a DMZ? Basically, it's this small, isolated network that sits as a buffer between your trusted internal systems and the untrusted outside world. It's this controlled no man's land, and it's the perfect place to put servers that have to face the public, like a data server, without ever giving an outsider a direct line to your critical OT network. And this shows you the difference between a good DMZ and a great one. Over on the left, you see a setup with just a single firewall. If that one wall gets breached, the attacker basically has the keys to the kingdom. But now, look at the design on the right. With two firewalls, if an attacker gets past that outer one, they're just trapped in the DMZ. They still have a whole other, hardened firewall to get through before they can touch anything important. Okay, so we've got a handle on traffic coming in, but what about when a device inside our secure fortress needs to talk to the outside world? We really don't want it making direct contact. That, my friends, is where a proxy server comes into play.
A proxy is just an intermediary. The best way to think about it is like a personal shopper. You tell your shopper what you want, they go out into the busy, chaotic marketplace to get it for you, and then they bring it back. You never have to leave the safety of your home. A proxy server does the exact same thing for network requests. It hides the true identity of the computer inside, keeping it safe from the internet.
So let's bring this back to our setup. The proxy server acts as this critical insulator. Any requests coming from the IT network, they never touch the OT devices directly. Nope. They go to the proxy. The proxy handles the communication, and those critical control systems are completely shielded and protected from any direct exposure.
All right, so we've got our gatekeeper, our buffer zone, and our intermediary. But these aren't just separate tools that we throw at the problem. They're designed to work together as part of a complete strategy.
And this brings us to a really core principle in all of cybersecurity. There's no single silver bullet here. A truly strong security posture is all about defense in depth. It's the philosophy that having multiple overlapping layers of defense is way stronger than just having one. So if an attacker somehow breaches that first wall, they just find themselves facing a second one, and then a third.
Okay, let's pull all the pieces of our fortress together. The firewall, that's our high outer wall. The proxy server is like a trusted bodyguard inside, handling any interactions with the outside. And that DMZ we talked about, that's the fortified courtyard between the walls. Any single one of these could potentially fail, but having them all working together, now that creates a truly formidable defense.
You know, it's really easy to just throw up a firewall and call it a day, think the job is done. But as we've just seen, that's really just the first stone you lay down. So I'll leave you with this one question. When you look at your own network, do you just see a simple wall, or have you truly built a fortress?